Life, good health, and peace of mind are priceless. But when it comes down to chasing that elusive bag, many rappers and civilians endure depletion of their mind, bodies, and souls in that pursuit. They work themselves to a premature death. Phrases like, on my grind, team no sleep, and sleep is the cousin of death, exemplifies a hustle over everything mentality. The mindset seems to disproportionately benefit corporate entities over those putting their lives and bodies on the line. Welcome to Dead Rappers Get Better Promotion, the health crisis in hip-hop. Tonight, we will explore the creative and physical labor of rap artists and their truncated lifespans as a reflection of the labor practices and health outcomes for Black and Latino men within our broader society. We ask, should companies also have a responsibility towards the workers they deem so essential? And should artists and the laborers demand that health needs of these most profitable human resources be considered? Let's talk about it. We are honored to have the Lieutenant Governor of this wonderful state of New York, Antonio Delgado. He will grace us with opening remarks right after this.
Good evening. It is good to be here with you all. I want to first acknowledge Wes Jackson, president of BRIC, certainly the moderator, Nicole, to our esteemed panelists, and to everybody here in the community. It's good to be here to talk about the health crisis in hip-hop and what it says about the persistent pain caused by deep-seated structural oppression meant to dehumanize Black and brown people. As a Black man with Latino roots and a former hip-hop artist, this is personal for me. I'm all too familiar with the bone-crushing history that gave rise to the social conditions too many of our people are trapped in to this day and forced to make a way through. And it has been this way for generations. Intergenerational poverty didn't just materialize on its own due to genetic pathologies inherent to Black and brown people. Our troubled neighborhoods were manufactured by our own government. 3 out of 4 neighborhoods redlined 80 years ago continue to struggle economically today. And for this reason, our people are more likely to live in neighborhoods with a lack of healthy food options, banking opportunities, green spaces, recreational facilities, lighting, and safety. And it is out of these same conditions that hip-hop was born. And that's what makes the culture so powerful. Our humanity and agency would not be denied. We were determined to be seen, heard, and felt, no matter the conditions, and on our own terms. There is great power in that and in us. Understanding that power and who we are is what inspired me to pursue a career in hip-hop in the first place, in pursuit of transformative change and a more just society. But let's be clear, the power we possess and hip-hop has long possessed is nonetheless entangled with the perils of oppressive conditions. Just because we got it from the mud doesn't mean the mud is good. It just means we did what we need to do to survive. The question is, how do we actually live better, healthier lives? Because the fact is, rappers are dying too much and dying too young. One report makes it clear. The life expectancy for male rappers and hip-hop artists is approximately 30 years old. And as we celebrate 50 years of hip-hop, the unfortunate reality is that several of our pioneering artists aren't here to celebrate. The number of rappers who never lived to see much more than 50 years is astonishing. The list is simply too long to go through. Now, we can talk about gun violence and substance abuse on the one hand, but what about all the rappers dying young of heart disease, lung disease, cancer, diabetes, strokes, liver, or kidney failure? All these are among the top 10 causes of death among black men and Hispanic men, according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. It makes sense that these causes also prominently figure in the deaths of hip-hop artists. And for this reason, it is important to examine the conditions that affect mortality and attempt to get to the actual causes, rather than trying to act like it's the music itself that's the problem. These are the same structural conditions that led to black folks dying at twice the rate as white folks during COVID. Conditions that make it so that black folks suffer from higher rates of hypertension, diabetes, asthma, and heart disease. So, make no mistake about it. This conversation here is an important one. We can celebrate 50 years of hip-hop and all that we have achieved, and we should. But let us also use this opportunity to better understand the outcomes of systemic barriers to health and wellness, such as limited access to affordable health care, dietary options, and mental wellness resources. And from there, think through government-based, market-based, and community-based solutions. Let's also keep in mind that with all of hip-hop's success, I believe we have reached the point where the culture has the capacity to turn its own power in opposition to the very structural conditions that gave birth to it in the first place. And in my mind, this was always hip-hop's destiny. Or as Nas would say, it was written. God bless.
All right. How amazing is that our lieutenant governor is spitting bars like that? Well, this is our time that we acknowledge our partners. So I'd like to acknowledge our type partner, Hip Hop Public Health. They create educational resources using the power of music and culture to improve health in underserved communities. Let's clap for them, Hip Hop Public Health. And our event partners are Juice for Life. They have fresh juices out there at BRIC Cafe, Studio 31C, Kings Against Violence Initiative, and they're on site here today, Venture House, On Point NYC, and the Brooklyn alumni chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Now, I want you guys to know that you're in the audience, but you're a part of this production. So there's some Q&A. There's going to be a Q&A call. And so if you're in the ballroom, look around your seat. You should have a little card and a pencil. And if you don't, look at one of the producers, and they'll hook you up with something. You can write your questions there. And even if you're in the stoop, we want to hear for those questions out there also, right? Please use your questions responsibly, amen? When you get on the mic and write them down. We're asking that the community engages throughout our discussion. So if you have questions and you're watching, we ask you guys to drop them in the chat in our YouTube. You're streaming it live. And we'll get them to the panel. Now, are we good? Are we good? All right. Now we're on to the part y'all really want to hear about the panels. Our first panelist is Dr. Olajide Williams. I got it right. He's the co-founder of Hip Hop Public Health. Dr. Williams is the Vice Dean of Community Health at Columbia University. He is a physician at New York Presbyterian Hospital and a clinical neurologist at Columbia University's Irving Medical Center. Dr. Williams is a world-renowned leader in stroke disparities and community-based behavioral intervention research. Clap it up for the black man. And then we have Mr. Keith Nelson, Jr. Keith is a journalist who works over there at Men's Health. And he also promoted the first, or was the lead for the initiative of the first venture into hip-hop health, including hip-hop artists, right? a 6-artist cover spread celebrating Hip Hop 50, a panel series exploring hip hop's connection to black men's health journey in America. He's also written for publications such as Vibe magazine, clap for that, Revolt TV, Complex, thegrammys.com, Red Bull, OK Player, and so many, many more. Shout out to you. He be working. He be working. Then we have DJ Enough, the legend, the man, the myth.
I don't know about the myth.
He is a fixture in both clubs and on the radio. Music fans will know him as El Presidente, Big Spanish, the leader of the heavy hitter DJ crew, Hot 97, 107.5 WBLS. DJ Enough has strong Brooklyn roots. Growing up, spending his adolescent years in Flatbush. Shout out to Flatbush. Got any Flatbush in the house?
Shout out Flatbush, always, always.
And this is the fire part. He was a tour DJ for the late, great, Notorious B.I.G.
Yeah. My neighborhood.
It's your neighborhood. You home.
Facts.
We also have Styles P.
My bro.
You got fans. Styles P is from Yonkers, New York, and is a member of the legendary, the iconic Lox crew. Come on now.
Absolutely.
Y'all not clapping loud enough? As a member of the Lox, he has collaborated with artists such as Diddy, the Notorious B.I.G., Mary J. Blige, Mariah Carey. He got some old solo projects out there with Havoc. Come on now. His son is an MC also. And while he's blazing in hip-hop, he also cares about his people. And so he is the founder of Juice for Life, Juice Bar, and also Pharmacy for Life. Thank you for your work, my brother.
Thank you.
We have brother Bob Celestin, another Brooklyn native. Brooklyn's in the house. He's a graduate of Yale University and Columbia School of Law. He has practiced entertainment in New York City for over 25 years. Bob was responsible for the negotiation and signing of uptown multi-platinum artists and producers such as, wait for this, Mary J. Blige, right? Jodeci, Guy, Heavy D and the Boys, I'll Be Sure, and it keeps going on and on and on and on and on and on. Yeah, he's a legend.
I'll be sure.
He also worked beside P. Diddy, Sean Combs, he was puffy back then, and Celestin represented the late Extension and Pop Spoke, and now reps their state.
X-Tentacion.
Tentacion. And he's still representing him very well. I like it.
Gotta get it right.
That's what a lawyer's supposed to do. His office also represents 6ix9ine and Designer.
Yep.
Give it up for Bob Celestin. And last but not least, we have Ramik Williams. He's the co-executive director of CAVI, Kings Against Violence Initiative, and has dedicated his career to eliminating racial disparities in economic, educational, health systems for communities of color. He has grounded his work by leading organizations and programs and initiatives designed to increase investment in oppressed communities. Thank you for your work, brother.
Yes, sir.
High-powered panel we got here. And so while I really want us to jump into this panel, it's only appropriate as we talk about Black men and Latino men's health initiatives that we take a moment, pause for a moment of silence for all of the MCs, the rappers that have transitioned. So if we all, just for a minute, let's pause and think on our brothers and sisters this past. Thank you all. Now we can jump into the fun part. We got all of the credits and things that we had to talk about. We're going to kick it off with like these rapid questions where y'all can just jump in. Important questions. And it's kind of simple. We start off simple. The first question is, how do you prioritize your health when you consider your demanding lifestyles and schedule? Any one of you guys can jump in. How do you prioritize your health considering your schedule and your lifestyles?
My body tell me when I gotta prioritize it. That's the one thing I learned very young. It's like when your body tells you to take a nap, take a nap. You know, so whatever I try to do is I always try to make sure that if it's not a priority, it's not like a fire, like, oh, I got to make sure this issue gets out, or I got to make sure I get this interview. I'm just going to like say, hey, I'll talk to you next week. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Like, it's not going to end your career to not do this one thing or these other things. It's just, you know, but because there's been times when like I've been burnt out. And like when we did the Hip Hop 50 issue, I probably slept like 2 hours a night. And I definitely took like a 12-hour nap like after it was done. So you know, just listen to your body, really.
Mm-hmm. Listen to your body. Anyway, I saw you was about to jump in.
I'll jump in. So from my perspective, me taking care of myself to some extent is ego-driven, right? Because I grew up idolizing folks like Muhammad Ali, Jim Kelly, Bruce Lee. And for me, I grew up watching a lot of blaxploitation movies, Shaft and all that, and those were images to me of what black men should be, right? Strong, powerful, and at the time I was very, very skinny, you know, and didn't really like being super skinny, and started lifting weights and exercise, was always into it, and it's now a lifestyle. Especially given the fact that I've lost 2 parents. One was I lost my dad because of colon cancer. I'm of Haitian descent. He was old school Haitian. He ate fried this, fried that, blah, 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 blah. He had a real big belly, and I remember when I was young, I'd say, Dad, are you having a baby? Like, what's going on? What's going on? He'd laugh it off, whatever. And then I had a mom who, unfortunately, spent about 11 years in a nursing home and ultimately died, had diabetes and everything. So when I would go visit her, which was probably one of the hardest things I'd have to do, is to go visit her every Sunday with my sibling. My brother Fritz is here. You know, I said to myself, man, is this my destiny? Is this where I'm going to be? I'm 64 now. Is this where I'm going to be when I'm 70? I'm like, no, I don't have to do this. This is not our destiny. Unfortunately, a lot of us, you know, don't know about our health. We don't prioritize it. There's a lot of mixed messages going out these days, you know, about acceptance and all this. There's a lot of, you know, I don't want to get too politically correct, but accept people where they are and everything, which is true to some extent. However, the fact is you're either going to be healthy or you're not. And there's a lot of folks that are role models, whatever, that are unhealthy. They're just not healthy. And so when younger people are looking at this and saying, oh, I can do this, I can do that, it's a problem, right? So I make it a part of my lifestyle. You know, that I work out. I just got back from Atlanta. Every hotel is a gym. I go in there, put in my hour in. I work out with a trainer, and I definitely, absolutely obsessive about what I eat.
I like that. So Styles want to jump in, and enough want to jump in? Y'all got hectic schedules.
You shouldn't worry about fitting health in your lifestyle. Your lifestyle should include health.
Facts.
I believe a lot of us, we look at health from the wrong angle. Your lifestyle goes on longer if you're healthy. And it's not about being a plant-based person, being a gym rat person. It's typically about balance on a day-to-day. You drank a lot Monday, you smoked a lot Monday, you partied the weekend. Monday and Tuesday, you balance it out. Typically, as people of color, I think we look at health as it isn't for us. So now it's about fitting health into your lifestyle. Health should be very much part of your lifestyle for you to continue to live your lifestyle. No matter what you like doing or what you love doing, you're going to do it better if you're in good health. You're going to do it better if you feel better about yourself. And that's just, it should be part of your program, not something that you're trying to fit in, but something that that just comes kind of organically. And that's not just working out. That's eating right, surrounding yourself with good people, being around good energy, being around smarter people, just things that typically work in a positive manner.
Absolutely.
So, real quickly, so I'm a doctor, that's why I waited to the end to answer this question.
Because it's I tell people what to do all the time when it comes to lifestyle. But the truth of the matter is, we're not very good ourselves at keeping healthy lifestyles.
Right.
Doctors. Yeah. And we know more than everybody else about health. And yet you see colleagues smoking on the corner, grabbing a quick burger on the fly.
Yeah.
You see all the vending machines in the hospital, grabbing chocolates, grabbing chips. We're just moving. And so I don't think it's a knowledge thing, right? Knowing more doesn't necessarily mean you're going to act better for your health. I think it's two things. One is the environment and the gravitational pull of an environment that's been decimated towards unhealthy habits. If we can make healthy habits the default choice, then things will be a lot better. The second point is mindset is number one. We have to start with our mindsets. You know, for me, when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is say a prayer and read a quick chapter from the Bible. I set my mind every morning, and I know I have the mindset to deal with whatever comes during that day. But I think that if you don't fix the mindset, it doesn't matter what your intentions are. That mindset will overpower that behavioral intention.
I think that's important, that discipline. Yeah, clap it up. And thank you for being transparent and honest.
Very important.
Right? Yep. Enough, did you want to jump in?
I mean, for me, I struggle with that every day, making bad choices, good choices. When I make good choices, I'm running 2-3 weeks on fire. Oh, I'm on point. And then all of a sudden, everything just falls flat. And I'm like, what did I do wrong? One thing I just did wrong. And then it leads to more things I'm doing wrong. So I was looking to blame somebody all the time. I'm like, I'm blaming mom, I'm blaming grandma, because y'all fed me this crap my whole life.
Facts.
And I loved it. Listen, your mom makes rice and peas or peas and rice your whole life.
Yep.
They make the baked macaroni and cheese. You ever had cornbread with butter?
My Lord. My Lord.
And then your parents say you only can have one piece?
Right.
From where? I should sneak another piece and go in the closet and eat it. But you're laughing, but that's just, look, okay, I might have been saved from getting shot outside, but I'm still getting killed on the inside.
Facts.
You feel what I'm saying?
You hit the point.
So that's what this whole program is about. It's about
and
that.
That's a great segue into our next. I'm going to refer you guys to the next slide. Like, we're going to have a slide. And this is not only in hip hop, right? This is across a broader part of our society. A baby born to a family on the Upper East Side will live 11 years longer than a baby born to a family in Brownsville.
That's still happening today.
Yeah, that's the facts.
Yep.
Let that sink in. And a lot of that is, of course, it's environmental also, but like you said, a lot of it is the way that we learn to eat, right? Our traditions, our culture, and the discipline to say no, right?
Well, the reality is, if you're growing up in an environment with limited choices, limited healthy options, if your parents and your grandparents and your great-great-grandparents grew up in that environment, you're going to eat a certain way, you're going to cook a certain way based on what's around you. And those habits are going to be transmitted from generation to generation. And if the environment never changes, if I got to walk 20 blocks to get a vegetable, and I have a Popeyes right there in front of me for 1/10 of the price, what do you think? And we are cognitive misers. We don't like to stress ourselves.
That's right.
Convenience is powerful. And so it takes incredible amount of willpower to walk that 40 blocks to buy that vegetable that's more expensive than the chicken in front of your door.
And that's important. Just an important note for us that we have to make sure when we're advocating for things in our communities, markets, fruit markets, vegetable markets.
Style speed.
Juices.
It's like Doc said, we're in an environment where most of us, if you're a person of color and you came up in a poor neighborhood, you're used to seeing fast foods, liquors, pizza, chicken spots every corner. Now you're conditioned to using these places, and it's like you have to reprogram yourself to understand you're in a trap, to understand you're at war. You're at a war that we're losing because we don't know we're in the war. That's the easiest war to lose. So now you have to condition yourself to the easiest way, I believe, especially for us adults who are conditioned by this, is to start thinking about children. If we start thinking about children, because no matter what you said, a child learns from example.
That's it.
So when you see what you're doing, how you're doing, you have to think how you, is that me? Oh, no, don't worry about that. You have to think about, are the things I'm doing, my child is watching them, and are they beneficial for my child?
That's fact.
Are they beneficial for my peers? Are they beneficial for my siblings, my elders, my community? So now we have to make it our business, like Doc says, to go that extra 10 miles, to go, all right, I'm going to go, or go to the supermarket. Like sometimes we think there's not choices when there are choices.
Yes.
It's just not used to making those choices.
That's a fact.
You could go
That's
to the
what-
supermarket
That's a fact.
and go say, I'm going to go get bananas.
There's vegetables there, too.
Almonds, cashews, vegetables,
Yep.
can of chickpeas,
Yep.
certain drinks. These are options that are available. You're just not used to the options. Like Doc said, you're used to watching.
And that's the power
what
of
your
hip
mom
hop,
did.
right?
Yeah.
And I think that the way we message these opportunities in our communities, the people knowing that you can get these options right there in the way we message them is not penetrating enough. And that's where I think the power of hip hop comes. You know, Dougie and I started Hip Hop Public Health. And we started Hip Hop Public Health because we realized that these messages weren't reaching the streets. You know, and knowledge is powerful. It might not translate into behavioral change, but it's the ignition key that's turned on, right? And so, but if we can take hip hop as a genre, if we can take folks like Styles P and what they're doing to really promote these messages, the young people will listen.
Yeah. So I thank you very much. Don't y'all love that?
Yeah.
They said earlier I'm a reverend, and I really am, so I like to call in response. I don't like y'all yelling out in the middle of somebody talking, but at the end, a good clap is always good. Enough. I got a question for you.
Tell me.
So, how many hours do you work a day? And do you believe, based on the hours that you're working, that you're compensated correctly? I mean, not you big dog. I know you got the paper. Like, we know.
It's like a trick question.
It is a trick question.
Because the shifts I'm on, they're only like an hour or two. But then it's all the things you have to do prior to that that get you to that space. So, yeah, my shift might only be an hour or two, but I'm still working prior to that and after that. It's a different, you know.
So it's not a grueling grind as that may have been
No, it
years
might not
ago.
be. No. My wife beefs at me all the time. She's like, oh, you going to do your little hour show?
Okay.
So,
But enough.
So I'll be like, yeah, a little hour show pay for the house.
Right. But enough. You also you're a DJ.
Of course. I know.
You got to put that in that
That's the
equation.
question, yeah.
See, he's a DJ, so he's on the weekends. He's working.
Yeah, but I'm not working as much as I used to. But because like you said, we got to pick and choose our battles and what's better for us.
I like that. Thank
I'm
you.
in my 50s now, so who's trying to be out hanging out with 16-year-old girls? I'm not trying to do that. Makes no sense. You look like a creep.
Well, that leads to this next question. Bob, if you can jump in on this. Like, hip-hop, the work that we do looks so glamorous to people. And it kind of promotes this idea, team no sleep. Like, I got to grind. If I don't grind, somebody going to take it from me. That kind of mindset. Would you say that it's an expectation from labels for their artists to kind of work tirelessly or to have this type of mindset, this kind of grueling mindset? Or do you think it might be management driven or just personally driven by the artist?
Listen, the most successful artists, and Styles I know can attest to this, is that they're self-driven to a large extent, right? You trying to come out here, you trying to get out of the hood and better your circumstances, right? It's not the labels. Like, a lot of times, you know, people blame the record labels per se. Oh, they forcing you to write this. They're trying to do this. Corporations are amoral, period. They're just profit driven, right? So, you know, and Styles can talk to this. I've been in many, when at Uptown, I never had a major label executive tell Puff what to write or to tell Styles, yo, you need to write these kind of songs, whatever. He's gonna write what he wants to write. And if there's a demand for it, then he's going to keep writing those songs because that's what the fans want to hear. And what corporations do is say, oh, wait a minute, this record is selling? well, we can distribute this and put it in stores, or now we're streaming it in the whole nine. So it's not like, the labels are trying to tell you or push a certain type of narrative. They don't care. They don't even understand half of the. Look, when Biggie was signed, when Puff did a deal with Arista, Clive Davis didn't understand Biggie.
No,
You understand?
definitely not.
He never understand you guys.
Definitely not.
Right? But it was like, oh, this shit is popping, so we're gonna get and sign with it. So with respect to rappers, they're self-motivated. The ones that are really have become successful, you have to put in the time. You have to put in the work, right? But it's important, that their management, or in my case, I'm pretty direct with a lot of my clients, right?
Yeah.
With the late X with Pop, these guys were in shape. And I'd be like, all right, you guys are in shape, you exercise and all that. I have clients that are not. I'm not the most politically correct person in the world. So I'm telling them, like, yo, bro, what's good? What's up with that gut, son? Like, what are you doing, right? I would have these conversations, and, 90% of them would receive it, right? Because they look at me like, yo, how old are you, man? You OG, whatever, right? So I think it's combination of management, it's combination of the folks that are around them. Again, as an attorney, I'm a little bit above. I do a little bit more than just tell you what your contracts are. We have conversations, and I develop relationships with you. So I'm always trying to push the health narrative. I don't smoke weed. I know they do. Right? My issue with weed is that, hey, there are benefits to cannabis, but the delivery mechanism is an issue for me. Inhaling anything into your lungs, whether it's vaping, weed, cigarettes, hookah, whatever, is inherently unhealthy. Period.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the doctor can attest to that, right? So, but unfortunately, it's part of the culture. I mean, I'm a little concerned when I'm around where my office is. All these young kids are coming out of school. They're all smoking.
Yeah.
14, 15 years old. This can't be good.
And I think Ramik can probably speak to this. Ramik, if you can share a little bit about working with young people and them looking at artists and these type of lifestyles, glamorizing certain things that might be unhealthy for them, or at least the way that they might receive those messages. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, well, thank you. But before that, I'd like to just mention the government policies that force young people into making the decisions that they make.
That's good.
Force us all into making unhealthy decisions.
That's good,
right?
that's good.
So when we talk about access to food and we talk about healthy eating, we have to look at things that affect us, like EBT benefits or school lunch policies, right? Recently, the COVID regulations that allowed for schools to provide more food to students and families expired, and there wasn't much of a push for that, to extend those benefits. When we look at the impact that EBT benefits have on families, and we know that the COVID benefits that just elapsed, that there's now an increase in child poverty and what that does to young people. So yes, it is us. We all have agency over our own lives, but we also have to hold government officials, elected officials from the city council to the president's office accountable to make sure policies and procedures are in place that allow us to make healthy decisions.
Facts.
So I just wanted to frame it that way. So now that you have that, if we expect a young person who's not eating properly, who's not sleeping properly to make healthy decisions for their daily lives, we're fooling ourselves.
Facts.
Right? And so when we look at their environment, their ecosystem, they're making decisions based on the here and now. What am I going to do today? What am I going to do later today? What am I going to do tonight? They're not thinking 10 years from now. They're not thinking how that burgers and fries is going to impact me long down the line. They're not making those decisions, and we shouldn't expect them to. So when they see videos and photo shoots and IG and TikTok and all that promote something that they attain to, and then we question how they go about attaining that, we have to look at ourselves. Adults are the problem.
Yeah.
I say it all the time. Children aren't the problem. It's the adults that are the challenge. And so when we, as adults, when we vote, or even worse, when we don't vote, and we allow people who don't have our best interests or even their own best interests into office and to stay in office, that cycle will always continue. And so to the point of mental health and physical health, which are hand in hand, we have to ask ourselves, what aren't we doing? And what are we doing to exasperate the challenge?
So what I've heard so far is that, clap for that, that's so important. And what I've heard, and I'm going to talk to you, Doc, about this. I heard that adults are at fault because we do not exercise our right to take control over our communities through the agency that we have through voting and just through being adults, right? But also in how we condition the young people and give them access to certain things.
To a certain extent, yes. But I want to emphasize there are elections every year.
Yeah.
Every single year, there are local elections to get on parent-teachers associations, community education councils, community boards, city council, state assembly, senate, governor, mayor. Every year, there's something to vote on. And we have to exercise our vote and support those individuals that have our best interests. So yes, that is a way that we are allowing ourselves and promoting our best interests.
Doc, what do you say?
So I just want to, so really quickly, thank you for that. It was really excellent. The way we look at health as a public health professional is we recognize that there are multiple levels of behavioral influence. There's the individual, there's the kid. Around the kid is his family, parents, cousins. Around that is the institutions and the schools and in all the organizations in the community. Around that is policy that shapes these communities. And so in order to make change, you have to shift every level. The biggest challenge is structural racism.
Yes, sir.
That is the biggest challenge. Because no matter how much we try to change the system was not designed for us. It was designed for the other man. You know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about.
So until we can fix and dismantle the fundamental problem, which is structural racism, we will continue to have poorly funded schools. You know, 60% of school revenue comes from local taxes. If your neighborhood, if your local environment has been decimated by disenfranchised by the racism itself, the taxes are going to, the revenue that's going to those local schools are going to be ridiculous relative to the revenues that are going to a nice school in Chappaqua, right? So what I'm saying is that at every level, structural racism has disempowered upward movement for our people. And so we need to attack this at every level, the policy level. We need guys like the lieutenant governor, right, out there fighting for fair and just policies, criminal justice system, you know, tax, everything. So to your point, I think we cannot underestimate what you began with around the difference in a child being born on the Upper East Side and a child being born in Spanish Harlem or Central Harlem. We know the life expectancy is very different. And why? The neighborhoods, the disenfranchisement of the black and brown neighborhood by structural racism.
So Keith, you've been quiet, but I want you, you actually can jump in because I don't know if you guys had an opportunity to look at his Hip Hop 50 spread in Men's Health, but you actually did something very interesting. It was by decade, right? And he said that this systemic, right? Talk about the history of the systemic injustice and health disparities that you found in your research.
Well, the main thing that I found that was very shocking, but kind of, when I looked back at my own history, I kind of understood it, was that how this structural racism is so entrenched in our culture is that we have to not, I don't want to say embrace it, but we have to just like what we have around us to like even celebrate. So I remember I was speaking to DMC, and he said that there'll be DJs being like, yo, who has the coke? Who has the blow? And then the people were like, I got the blow. And it was like, it's like a call and response. It was like a celebration of sorts. But like that right there. And then he mentioned how in some songs, they talk about burgers and fries instead of talking about healthy foods. Yeah. So I think when it comes to what I learned in my research, I saw a lot of the decades be like, this is what we're used to. This is what we've been given. You know what I mean? Black people for centuries have taken what we've been given and made the best out of it. You know what I mean?
It's like a jungle sometimes, and makes you wonder how I keep from going up. That right there, like, and that's the environment.
And those are the things that right there, in front of everybody's face, we're telling America, we're telling the world, this is pain. You know, but we turned our pain into profit. You know, we turned our pain into progress. We turned our pain into an actual history that we can act like 50 years of hip hop. Yeah. We turned into hip hop, you know? Yeah. So when I looked at that and out there throughout the decades, and each decade, the one thing that I saw that never changed was black men who were taking the health disparities that they were encountering and making the best of it. Rapper Freeway was, suffering from diabetes.
Yes.
And he said that if people knew that Jay-Z and Dane were eating grilled chicken and, bottled water and stuff like that, instead of thinking it's all Cristal and, popping that on Fleet Child, then maybe people might have been a little bit different. Maybe people might have been more inspired and everything to do that. So throughout my research, it just was a sobering. It made me look back at my own history. Back when you can get 4 chicken wings with shrimp fried rice for $5.
Oh, you're in the hood.
That to me was a delicacy. That to me was a delicacy because that was what was around. So when I hear rappers talk about it, it feels like, oh, we're from the same struggle. We identify with that struggle so much. And then I think to the point that you said about the labels, the one thing that I learned from Method Man, he said that when he was coming up, because he was sex symbol, the guy that everybody wanted to look at, and I'm thinking Method Man gonna tell me like, yeah, I was at the gym twice a week, I was eating this and that. He told me like my metabolism kept me slim. I didn't work out at all, and do you know why I didn't work out? Because the label had me going from this show to that show to that show to this to doing that. Cause like he said, they're profit driven, and do you know what gets you profit? Time. Time gets you profit. So when these rappers are like, yo, I just came from having no money in my pocket. I just came from eating, barely eating food. And now you're telling me all I gotta do is just sacrifice sleep for 6 months out of the year and tour, and I could do it. And they're not gonna choose. A lot of them didn't choose to eat healthier because they didn't have the time or the focus on that.
Or the knowledge. I mean, in all this gloom and doom and structural racism, I mean, there is some room for optimism because, look, you just finished doing a report, on rappers that are really trying to push the health envelope, whether it's Method Man,
Dougie Fresh.
Dougie Fresh was my client, and definitely we've been talking about health from the time that, I was back at Uptown. So and then Styles is what he's doing. Mm-hmm. So there is because I'm trying to paint an optimistic picture.
Yes.
There is some movement or some recognition that, man, we just can't keep going the way we're going. We lost Biz Marquis, we lost this, we lost that. There's a kind of awakening to some extent because structural racism is what it is, but individual choices, we still have that, right?
And that's
so
what
really
makes hip hop so great, is that we're able to reconfigure things that was designed to make us weak and shatter. We have the ability. Listen, you guys, this is a great opportunity for you guys to get up with your questions and then find one of these mics, wherever they are. There's one over there. There's supposed to be one over there. And you guys line up, and then we're going to be taking some questions soon. Okay?
Something I have to say.
Yes, sir.
It really starts in the house.
It does.
Hip-hop is very important, but most hip-hop artists, most rappers are coming from a place where they're impoverished. They aren't educated. They haven't learned enough. And as far as the no sleep aspect, when you're a young MC and you're hungry, when you're young at anything,
facts,
you're not sleeping a lot. Like you're in a competitive point.
You hate
sleep. You like it's studio work is to be done at night. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes it carries over into the morning and the afternoon. But when you're passionate about something, especially when you're young, you do it as much as you possibly can. As you get older, you learn, all right, here's the time out I have to take to do certain things. You mature, your schedule becomes different, you get more responsibility. So now you have more time you have to figure out how to utilize your time different. When you're in your teens and your 20s, it's, pardon my French, but it's balls to the walls with whatever you're doing to say, all right, I got to put this grind in. But the responsibility starts at home as a parent, because especially a lot of rappers, I know particularly for me, the big reason why Juices for Life is important to me, Pharmacy for Life, was I had to self-diagnose myself with saying, I'm chemically imbalanced. Something is making me off, and I had to figure it out. Fortunate enough, I was wise enough and smart enough to get to the bottom of it, but most of us aren't. So you can't look at a genre of any people. You could exclude hip hop out of the picture. It's us as black parents that have to say we have to make this change for our kids. If you're going to depend on hip hop to do it, hip hop is still corporate driven. At the end of the day, then it's not going to happen for you.
Correct.
You have to take that into your own hands.
Facts.
And make it work on your own accord and your own one too for your own family. Because if we keep looking at, and I hate to say it like this, right? We do have to deal with racism. We're number one on the list. So, but this is a long list. Like if they erased all black people tonight and just put some in the water and we're all dead tonight, right? White people will still be racist against white people. There's Russia and Ukraine right now. You never looked at it from the point going, that's white on white violence on a major scale that you never look at, but you always thinking about black on black violence. So if we keep waiting for the white man to be fair to us, we're going to continue to be waiting. It's for us to take that step up and say, this is my responsibility as a father.
Yeah,
This is my responsibility as a mother. This is my responsibility as a brother to bring this to myself first, then my significant other, then my siblings, my seeds, then my friends, then my community. That's how we're going to get out of it. Because if we keep looking at what the white man is doing, we're bound to lose. Like we got to chuck that out the window, and we're dealing with that, and that's the situation that's going to be stuck until we make the change on our own accord first, all of us, or at least a heavy percentage
Or if
of us.
Keep looking at, not like necessarily the white man is doing X, Y, and Z.
I mean, but
if we're looking at
just the system.
No, if in addition to just the system, we can't also look at hip hop to raise our kids either. And so
That's exactly what I'm saying.
There's a level of responsibility that you're saying. So I was about to ask you some questions. You can definitely build on that because I know that you've done this neurological work where you can contextualize a lot of this conversation and what this does to like our the cerebral makeup of black and brown people.
Yeah, I was going to go to that. I think I love the idea of personal responsibility. Don't get me wrong. I love the idea of self-empowerment and fighting, but I think that it's more complicated than that.
Absolutely. Agreed.
I think that we have to be really smart about how we attack all those levels. There's the family and the individual level, but there are all those other levels that are stacked against us.
That's right.
And I wanted to go a little deeper into that,
Go
for
deeper.
example. So we know from a brain science perspective that chronic psychosocial stress, and we know that black and brown people have far more chronic psychosocial stress just because of all the things that are stacked up against them in this country.
Right.
We know that that process actually leads to smaller brain growth in key areas of the brain. So there are three areas that are affected. One area is called the prefrontal cortex, which is involved in executive decision making and planning. The other, and that's smaller when you've endured chronic psychosocial stress. The amygdala, which is our emotional regulation center, that's also smaller when you've endured chronic psychosocial stress. The area called the hippocampus, same thing, chronic psychosocial stress. From all these stacked up pressures, it's volumetrically smaller. Now, God has designed the human being that those changes are reversible.
Yep.
This is the beauty of human beings, that if you change that individual situation, that area of the brain that's been unable to grow properly catches up and then starts to grow normally. So there's the neurological piece of trauma that occurs in the brain. There's a second piece that I want to mention, and that is the chronic psychosocial stress affects our DNA. This is deep, and a lot of people don't know this, and that's why personal responsibility is never going to get us out of this mess.
Right.
The chronic psychosocial stress affects our DNA. It does what we call, it methylates our DNA, which means it can turn the DNA on or off. And if it turns a particular DNA on, and it's a risk gene for hypertension, you will be more likely to have hypertension no matter what you do. You will be more likely to have kidney disease no matter what you do. You can be the healthiest person in the world, and you can still have it if that gene has been turned on by chronic psychosocial stresses. Then let me tell you one other quick thing.
Wait. I'm sorry, Doc.
It's deep.
Did you just say that in simple terms, a certain amount of stress can change your DNA?
Can change your DNA.
And impact your health.
And you can transmit that changed DNA. We call it epigenetics. You can transmit it to your kids and your kid. Look, there are two reasons why. Let me just keep. There are two reasons why people get sick. One is very lifestyle driven. The other is these epigenetic changes that increases risk from environmental stresses. We got to address both. And the challenge is that they both interact with each other. And so that is why just personal responsibility alone is not going to get us out of all these disparities in disease outcomes. We have to fix the drivers of that chronic psychosocial trauma that's affecting our DNA.
Wow, that's amazing. That's
great.
We're going to go to some of these questions. I'm blown away. But we're going to go to one of these questions. You come to the mic. Yes, quickly, come on. Don't be shy.
It's the light.
I know.
Tanya Richardson, community advocate, employer, BRIC, a lot of stuff. So my name is Tanya Richardson, and I'm an advocate for the community and a lot more. So my question is, there's so many, but they only give me one. Do the labels provide health care plans that cover testing, medication, procedures for if a person has to have dialysis, if a person has cancer, chemotherapy, hypertension. I'm in a hypertension program through my health plan where my blood pressure goes straight to them every day. Do the label provide that? When they negotiate their contracts, is there a health care plan in place, or is it like...
Thank you very much.
I can answer that
Thank
question.
you.
So, again, the relationship between a record label and an artist is that of an independent contractor, right? So it's the responsibility of the artist to get all of that, right? However, recently, because I've had clients that are going through some mental health crisis, and when I negotiate recording agreements, I'm negotiating a clause in the agreement that says, hey, I need X amount of money for mental health, right? And the labels are receptive to it, right? Now, ultimately, the way the economics work, it's recoupable against the artist, blah, 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 blah. But having said that,
Ridiculous.
this is a rapper. But it's something that they are willing to do if you ask for it. Not every lawyer asks for it. I just have to ask for it because I'm noticing that, this is something that needs to happen, right? A lot of these artists, they're brilliant artists, but, they've had either trauma that they're dealing with, some of the issues you're talking about, and not being able to make right decisions outside of the art, right? The art, again, in the studio, killing it. Outside of just, open up a bank account. I'm having, open up a bank account. Like, they don't know how to do it, right?
Cash your check.
So these are things that are becoming ever more problematic. And so trying to be the best advocate for my clients, I have to kind of try to factor in what's going on here. There are organizations, like for example, I have a client dealing, there's an organization called Music Cares for addiction, which is definitely, I heard of them, but I've never had to utilize them until recently for a client. And so they got, mental health professionals and this and that kind of thing. So long story short is that the labels they're not going to provide that, but you can ask that some monies that they're going to give to the artist be allocated towards health.
And so, and to that point, the massive labels probably won't provide that, but there is a label, LVRN, which has Black, Summer Walker, and a few other people. They have in-house therapies for their artists that I'm not sure if it's recoupable against the artist. I hope it's not. Yeah. But it's something that they can go in. That's a product of hip-hop being 50. That's a product of seeing decades of rappers go through this and them being like, no, we can't have our rappers do that. But to that point about if it should be, Common was talking about how we need to have a union, a hip-hop union. And
that was going to be my next question.
And that's something that, like,
Chuck D, I was speaking to, he works with Hip Hop Public Health, and they have a Hip Hop Alliance.
And that's why there needs to be, like, because Common was like, he's an actor, so he's in SAG-AFTRA, and he was like, when I looked at my health insurance, just doing like 2 scenes, and the health insurance that I get from that, I don't know why me doing 5 albums doesn't get me the same kind of health insurance like that. Like, it didn't make any sense
If
to
you
him.
get the 5 albums.
So I definitely think that we're at a place, hip hop being 50 is not just about some marketing plan. It's not about us celebrating a date. It's about showing that we're at a place right now where hip hop is at an age where health is so prominent that these new initiatives need to happen. Hip hop public health, LVRN with the therapy sessions, Common trying to push for a union. Those are things that maybe you would have never discussed 25, 30 years ago. But now we've seen the biggies, we've seen the big puns, we've seen the rappers who have passed away, especially a Big Pun, that could be super preventable.
And you know what's really interesting is because we know that Curtis Blow is starting the Hip Hop Alliance, or has started it with Chuck D. And so we have a message from Mr. Curtis Blow.
Oh, shout out Curtis Blow.
And these are the breaks.
Break it up.
Hey everybody, I'm Curtis Blow, and I want to thank you for inviting me to the Be Heard Town Hall discussion on health in hip hop. Health is important to everyone. I know firsthand that without good health, you couldn't live your life abundantly. You could not live your life to the fullest. Without good health, there will be no hip hop, y'all. And I went through my own health crisis a couple of years ago. Y'all, I had 4 heart operations, and the last one was a full heart transplant. So I know the importance of health. As a matter of fact, it became my top priority. Health should be your top priority now. This is why we formed the Hip Hop Alliance. The Hip Hop Alliance is a labor force organization out there on a mission to secure and protect fair wages and fair royalties and strong health and retirement benefits for all of the hip hop and R&B ecosystem, y'all. So join us at hiphopalliance.org. We also have the Legends Fund, which are emergency dollars set aside available to all of our members who fall on hard times. So we are paying bills, light bills, and paying for funerals and emergency medical situations, mental and physical health emergencies. We have your emergency assistance, all right? So let us help you. Donate to the Hip Hop Alliance Legends Fund. That's thelegendsfund.org. I love you. Thank you. Thank you for your time. God bless you all. I'll see you real soon. I'm Curtis Blow. Peace.
And we love you also, Curtis Blow. And I think what he said was really interesting because it shows artists being advocates for themselves and taking that initiative. And that's that optimism that you were talking about earlier.
Yes.
We're going to take a question from our stoop. So if you guys can pay attention to the screen, we're going to see who's live from the stoop. Hey, walk up to the mic. We see you.
How are you? My name is Allison. I'm cleaning for you too. So my question is for Dr. Williams. How you doing? I love everything that you said, and I wish the whole world could have heard what you said today. I want to know one thing though, because I've been on the other side. How do we get our people and the people in this hip-hop community to have their doctors listen to them? Because most of the time, I've seen doctors where they just want to tell the patient what to do, and they don't listen to the patient concerns. And that's why a lot of people don't even want to go to doctors, And I've seen some other things where people think, these younger people that work in the medical field, this is not a joke. You have to take people's health very seriously. And, they violate HIPAA laws. I've seen quite a few things behind the scenes. So how do you make it better where the doctor listens to the patient and the patient is able to trust the doctor and they have that trust, that doctor-patient relation trust, and where it could help them in their health? And then they also need to learn about long-term care because we're not going to be young forever. And we have to think about these things, and you're right. Nobody's thinking about 5-10 years later, and this is what we need to do. It's only going to make it better. That's mine right there. And I put everything good into her, food, everything. It's not a game. And everybody, y'all need to wake up. Your health is serious. Thank you.
So much. Health is serious. And Doc, you want to jump in on that?
Two answers to that. One is there's a lot of implicit bias in medicine, period. There are only 2 to 3% of us, for example, in the field of neurology are black. And so if you want to see a stroke doctor that's black, it's hard to find. So what we have to do is we have to train and educate our allies so that they can provide better more patient, more culturally competent care to everybody, regardless of their color, creed, whatever. The second thing on the other side is empowerment of the individual. So shared decision making is the best way to go in medicine. The patient has to have more knowledge about his or her condition so they can self-advocate at the same time and share those decisions together with their doctors.
Thank you very much,
Can I just add something to that?
Absolutely.
The other part to that is growing our own doctors, right? Empowering young people to become doctors, right? Like
Hip-hop public health. So let me just say real quick. So hip-hop public health, we've been doing this, Dougie and I have been doing this with our whole team since 2005. And we go into these schools, we train them around different health, education, etc. It's very powerful. You can check us out at hhph.org. Everything is free. But to your point, kids that have been part of our program back in 2005, 2006, they're now going into the medical profession. Right. They're now going into nursing and doctors and physician assistants because of the exposure they had to us when they were in middle school and elementary school.
And I think that's important. There's also Dr. Lynn Holden's program, Mentoring in Medicine.
Mentoring in Medicine.
Yeah. So she's a legend in the field, but also it goes back to the schools, right? Like here in Brooklyn, you have Clara Barton, which is notorious for its nursing program. You have BMCC, which is known for its nursing program. So we have to put investment in our school institutions so that we could grow our own doctors. At one point, HBCUs were producing more STEM professionals than any other university system in the nation. We've gotten away from that. And so we have to invest in our Howards, we have to invest in our Tufts, we have to invest in our Spelmans and all the Morehouses, all these black institutions that produce the professionals that we deserve and need.
We do have to invest in the Spelmans. So we have this another question for my brother here.
You need it?
No, why don't you say it? Yeah. I got your mic.
Peace. I am Sugar Ray, artist, activist, world healer from Queensbridge. Just in the last 3 years since COVID, in my neighborhood, we've lost 200 people, including TJ Swan, a 27-year-old rapper, King Shooter, died of liver failure. And my question is direct, right? We do a free vegan festival every year. We give out free vegan food. We just did our 3rd annual. We do a free weekly grief support group and other wellness initiatives. I want to know directly from you gentlemen, how can we on the ground partner with you guys? Because a lot of times that's what's missing. There are people doing the work who have a lot of solutions, as we all do. We all have solutions, but there's no partnership. There's no real collaboration happening, and so people still fall by the wayside, still get lost in the gaps, and that's how the issue still persists. So I really want to know, how can we partner with you guys? If you can answer that, you have direct website, direct emails, if you could share, please. Thank you. Peace.
Thank you, brothers.
hhph.org. Send us an email. We'll be happy to talk to you. hhph.org. That's our website. If you send us an email, we'll definitely get in touch. Thank you.
And I'll connect with you after this again, my email, because
Likewise.
I learned that there's a power to the written word. There's a power to storytelling. That I might not be a doctor, I might not be a nurse, but the one thing I want to do while I'm at Men's Health is make sure that these black and brown stories get told the right way and shown that there's people on the ground making it happen. So if you do it like that, Men's, let me know.
I'm still on the ground too, so you can find me. Make it work. I'm the Juice Bar Pharmacy. I'm there, and we'll chop it up and figure out how to keep it pushing.
Thank you so much. We have a question from our online viewers, because this is streaming live on YouTube. And someone said, this is important, how are beefs between hip-hop artists contributing to the mortality rates? Now, we saw earlier, or said earlier, that one of the statistics is that this, death by homicide or death by, is part of the issue.
So in my practice, in addition to representing pop, I also represent some 26AR, for example, and a bunch of young drill rappers. The interesting thing about drill is that it's the one sort of genre that, one side will personally attack the other side. Mention, I'm going after your grandmother, your this, your that, you're setting the whole nine. So again, part of what I do, and I've had to do this recently, was sit down, come to my office, and I had a conversation. I'm like, listen, guys, there was this crew that were getting ready to be signed to a label, about 5 or 6 young brothers, And I had to have a conversation with them and said, listen, this is after Pop just passed. I said, I'm not your A&R, I'm not trying to tell you what to write. However, I'm trying to tell you that it doesn't make sense for you to personally to mention your ops or their set specifically by name. Hip hop is about boasting. You can do all of that without necessarily specifically mentioning, a particular name or a set or a crew and the whole nine. And because you do that and you're walking down the street and somebody in that crew sees you, it's going to be a problem. Now, again, not sure whether they've listened, although this one particular rapper, I listened to his album, he clearly was kind of generic. He was still going after other folks, but he's more generic minded. So, that is a real problem, especially when it comes to drill vis-a-vis guys. The girls, like Ice Spice and all that's fun, game, this and that, whatever, it's not the same type of energy. So, again, it really depends on, the management and someone being able to have a conversation with them and just kind of guide them in that way without necessarily trying to step on their ability to creatively express themselves.
And
but that's a big issue.
And Jim Jones once said that being a rapper is the most dangerous job in the world. I'm not sure if I fully agree with that, but I understand where he's coming from. Where it's like you're walking around with a target on your back. Either somebody want to rob you, somebody want to take your life. You're a target. But the real reasons that I've seen from this current generation as to why these beefs are really affecting mortality, nobody wants to rap anymore. Nobody wants to really rap anymore and really battle. People want to go on the gram, go on social media, take shots at each other, because there's been, and I'm not trying to say that beefs haven't led to deaths before, but I mean
not at this level.
Not at this level. I mean, Styles P has destroyed a few rappers in his day. But none of them have led. But none of them have led to bullets. But none of them led to deaths. Yeah. So it's to me, it's like, I don't want hip hop to lose that aggressive competition, because that's what makes the best music. That makes you want to make yourself the best rapper you can be. But it's like we got to get back to the art form.
Now, I tell you, here's something that's really interesting, going back to the corporate thing. So Universal Records, I don't know if you might know this, Styles. Lucian Grange was the head of Universal Records, has sent out an edict saying he's not trying to sign rappers. He says, this is kind of shocking, because apparently him's it's too negative, it's too much shit going on. They're focusing more on Afro beats and reggaeton or the Latin space. So this is the first time a label has sort of said, we're going to de-emphasize signing hip-hop artists.
They won't last long, trust me.
I agree. Because I was with Atlantic at the
hip-hop's too powerful.
Right. And they said, Atlantic said, nah. He said, whatever. I was talking to somebody at Atlantic Records when I was at that BT. They're like, yo, good. The rappers they don't sign, we're going to sign. So it's crazy.
Go ahead, let Doc go.
I'm sorry. Doc, I want you to kind of jump in about, you said it's deeper than that. Let's talk about this.
It's deeper than just
decision-making.
Deeper than shooting each other. The beef, if the beef doesn't stay within the art form and spills into your daily life, it becomes a health risk factor.
Correct.
Hostility, beef, increases what we call atherosclerosis, which is inflammation in your arteries, hardening of your arteries. Within 20 years, those kids will be having heart attacks at the age of 40 or 50.
Yep.
Because that hostility that's spilling out into their life is causing inflammation and hardening of their arteries, even as they're 16, 15 years old. We see it, even at that age, begin, and it accelerates if they don't control that beef.
But doctor, you can also talk about cognitive behavior, right? Oh, yeah. The ability to make a decision. Everything that's said to you isn't necessarily offending to you. Right, you could take it personally, that's a choice, but the ability to make a sound decision that will make sure that you get home that night is something that we're not discussing, right? The accessibility of social workers, accessibility of case managers, accessibility of therapists in schools, family therapy, right? Family wellness. We have to talk about these things because it's real. And when we talk about where we want kids to make a good decision, and it comes from the home. I agree with that. I'm proud that my mother raised me the way she did, but I also have to recognize that a lot of the young people that we engage with, they're not going home to their mothers. They're going home to a shelter.
That's right.
They're going home to the streets. They're going home to this couch on Monday, this couch on Tuesday, this train station on Wednesday, this concrete on Thursday, so on and so forth. So we have to be aware of the reality that young people are in. It's not just agency and pulling themselves up by their bootstraps. We have to hold the reality that they're in accountable to the people who have put us in this position.
Exactly. I agree with them. One thing no one ever mentions, especially when mentioned drill rappers, we're talking about young people.
That's right.
Yep.
No one ever mentions the radio execs, the radio producers, the record execs at the label. There's a bunch of mature adults that are in line and making sure this music gets out. It goes back to the structure what we were speaking about earlier. Like, so why wouldn't a kid who thinking, all right, the last 20-something songs I heard was about this guy talking about his ops. They're playing it on the radio. It's getting spun. The kids didn't get it spun on the radio.
That's right.
He was sitting somewhere in the project talking about his ops because he's seen it work online, seen somebody else get on him with it. But no one's holding the adults, the execs, in the situation responsible whatsoever. Correct. We're sitting here talking about kids that aren't able to most likely manage their own feelings, like Doc is saying.
Yep.
Like, you're in a stressful situation. His mom's working 2 shifts. His dad's not there. He got a case. He's using his rhymes, and he's doing what society is doing. And it's not just music, because now you take out of mind, when most of us go to the movies, whether white, black, Spanish, Latin, Asian, whatever it is, the top-selling movie is a violent movie. It's a sex movie full of sex, violence, blood, and money. Most rappers look up to, from our genre, we looked up to the gangster flick, Scarface, Al Pacino. So people never, you never say shit about Grand Theft Auto. You never say shit about the latest movie that's blowing everybody's mind, but you're quick to blame your own and say, all right, what's happening with him here? Why is he leaning this way? The country leans this way, but us as black people, we'll point the finger at each other and say what we're responsible for without looking at all the circumstances in play, without saying, hey, that record exec guy let that play. Who's the head of his label?
That's right.
Who's the head of radio that let that play?
And you know what?
Like,
if he says something
nobody says none of that.
anti-Semitic,
You just
it's
talk
so-
about the kids.
And
Why
shout out
it's
to
so easy
Drewski,
to
because
get a gun,
Drewski
right?
took a
Like,
very...
talk about how easy it is to get a gun.
That's right. Drewski
They will censor certain things.
Yes.
And they will let certain things slide. And if you
Drewski made a
so
very...
they can't do it.
a very firm stance that he wasn't going to play drill music. Now, I don't know if he stuck to it, but I know that he made that stance. Enough. You're on the radio right now. What do you think about this? What do you think about allowing certain content to be on, or is it music and it's freeform, or is it programmed already?
I mean, I'm a big believer of freedom of speech and all that because I believe in it.
Yeah.
Styles is right to a certain point. Like, women have been running the radio in the last couple of years.
Yeah, 4 or 5 years. Yeah.
Running it. And it's a blessing, right? But if you listen to the content some of the women are spitting, it's more degrading from women what they're saying about other women as opposed to when men were doing it. So I'm not the radio police, and I don't know if that's what you guys want.
Right.
But,
I don't want you to be the
you want to be the radio police?
Not at all.
No, not at all, bro.
But, huh?
No, but your perspective is...
Not fast. Like, that's another thing that happens in our community, especially with us right now on social media. We got to stop separating the black man and the black woman.
That's right.
Like, black men and black women make black kids. Like, there's too much. Like, we just follow whatever program they give us, and we go with it. It got to stop being light skin against black. It got to stop being men against women. Like, we have to grow together, and a man and a woman put you here if you're here today in this room.
Facts.
Like, you got here from the combination of a man and a woman. Like, so now we're in a point where I don't know how these programs even start with it begins to be women against men and black women against black men all the time.
I think that
And
that's
it breaks your heart.
I think that that's a great point because there's a larger thing. And one of the statistics that we have here is that 51% of the cause of death in hip hop and rap artists is homicide.
Right.
Right? That's the statistic.
It's a fact.
That's the truth.
Who made the statistic? Pardon me. I want to ask that. Can I get to the bottom of who said that's the exact statistic?
Well,
What's very specific?
Like, I just want to know if it's
this is conversation.
Somebody black, white,
So this
who
is
got it,
so this is
where?
So they're looking at the
Go back to that. Go back to that slide.
So they're looking at the deaths of the rappers in the last couple of years. And out of them, 51% has not been about COVID or diabetes or whatever. Look at this.
I need to know who they are.
No, the source is theconversation.com. But also,
Who runs that? I'm just saying.
no, I got it.
Give me a list of you at Men's Health, y'all in hip hop. Give me a
No,
list of.
but look at, if you look at this, I don't want to shout over people.
That's
but if
from
you,
theconversation.com right there.
But if you look at this, it makes sense. It's logical. When you look at heart-related stuff, and that's usually fat food and grease and stuff like that. It's southern. I'm sorry. It's jazz music. It's gospel. It's southern stuff where we in soul food. So you look at the heart-related stuff. The highs.
Oh, that's supposed to be heart. It says
there.
heat related.
If you look.
It does say heat related.
That's supposed to be
So the
heart.
heart. And also, if you look
To
at.
your point, Styles. To your point. Who wrote that? Who came up with that? I can't even spell it.
I'm thinking about the rappers who passed the past few years.
Right. So when you look at the rappers who have passed, there have been more rappers, and we just said it a little earlier. More rappers have been killed.
I disagree with that.
Also, 51% isn't like an overwhelming majority, so it's kind of like
That is, but the past few rappers,
49, you know.
I'm just saying. I feel like agreement with me or disagree with me. Haven't we lost more people to bad health conditions, rappers in the past few years?
I'm a journalist.
Than homicide.
Styles, for a second. I'm a journalist. And so we're not talking about just the famous rappers, but when we're talking about the drill rappers and these young kids, these kids in Florida, these kids, what's his name? 350 Heem, he just got murdered. Like every other day, I'm covering a young artist who's getting murdered. And it's all in these drill stuff. It's drill, then there's murder rap. It's different, like, which is crazy. There's a subgenre called murder rap that's different. And y'all seen these.
There was a point.
But
I think that point is from the National Institute of Health. So the Center for Disease Control did release a report last year that identified the leading cause of death for young black men is homicide. So it seems like those numbers seem to be just pulled from that.
And there was because with respect to my two clients that unfortunately got killed, they were victims of a robbery, right? It wasn't like there was a beef, this and that, whatever. They were a victim of robberies, right? It wasn't, X said this about somebody else or Pop said this about somebody else.
Gun violence is a public.
Gun violence.
Yeah, gun violence
is a public.
So that shouldn't be attributed to
48,830 total gun deaths in 2021 reflects a 23% increase since 2019. So gun violence, and whether it was a robbery or beef, still a homicide, that's an issue for us. So to your point, to your point,
that's community related.
No, but to your point, the division between us worrying about men versus women and there's gun violence is an issue
between 2019 and now, which is what you.
To 2021, there was a 23.
What happened between that time?
COVID. That's right.
Right, and what did COVID do? COVID exploded mental health problems. COVID exploded poverty. Right. COVID exploded the housing crisis, food insecurity crisis. Desperation exploded, especially in our communities during COVID. And when people are desperate and they have to eat, you're going to see an increase in gun violence, but not just hip hop. It's
that's what I was going to say. That's a community thing because it always gets back to somebody being able to pinpoint something on us instead of the responsibility of that's happening in our community, period.
And
that's happening in our community, period. And how do I put this? I don't want to sound fucked
But no.
Keep it real, man.
Go ahead, go
I don't want to be the guy in the room, but like think about it.
We got the lieutenant governor in here.
I need to know
He's okay
when it
with
comes to statistics to us, I'm a firm believer in understanding exactly who are saying these statistics. What color are they? Where are they? How much do they know about a community? How much do they know about our culture? Do they know to differentiate what's what, where it's happening, when it's happening, and how it's happening? Because if you're going to tell me only 5-6% of us got cancer, I'm going to tell you that's a damn lie because I'm on the streets.
But this is the thing. This statistic.
It's a lot higher than that.
But beloved, this statistic is about hip hop. It is about artists. It is about R&B. It was about all those different artists who died. It wasn't about the whole community. It is a trigger because we've been talking about all of these things earlier, but we do know, and again, that these are certain issues that affect us as a larger scale, but when you look at hip-hop in a microcosm, those statistics are actually super real. And it might make us feel uncomfortable, but this is something that we can fix, or at least we can say, okay, this is the issue, let us fight against this. We're in our last 5 minutes, right? So that's good. That's our final thoughts. Do dead rappers get better promotion? Or
Answer any questions? Are you going to answer any more?
we only got 5 minutes, so this is our last round. So we're going to go around and get y'all final thoughts.
Let them two, they've been standing there for a long time. Yeah. Two brothers.
Yeah.
Well, let's just do it quick.
We're going to wrap it up quick, though.
We about the people. Come on.
How you doing? What's up? My name L.A. I'm a hip-hop artist and an actor. Stylist P, the author of Good Times. So this question is about marijuana. Like today, like marijuana, it's a two-sex plant. It has a male and a female. And as we know, marijuana is, we consume that, that's the culture. But the way that marijuana is being grown today, they're effeminizing the marijuana, and they're cloning it, and it's stripping away the genetic purity. Remember, it's a herb that has a medicinal property. Just like poison ivy. If you get poison ivy, you're going to be scratching because it has that medicinal property given to it by God. So the way that they growing it today and the way that we're consuming it, and we're not...
Your question, my brother, because we only got 3 minutes.
The question is, the way that they're growing it and selling it to us, you know, it's not the same. And how do you think it affects us as we're the #1 consumers, but not the authority of the agricultural properties of the herb?
Thank you so much.
I say find a good dealer, grow it yourself, find somebody reputable. That's the easiest way.
Rolling like it's smoking, right?
Tell the truth.
Next question.
Straight to the point.
What's up? My name is Garnett Strother.
My man dressed like Batman.
I'm an author of a book called Kagami, The Art of Listening. It's catered towards black men to help further understand themselves and the people around them.
What's the question?
My question is, hip-hop is the most influential art form there is, and that means we're the most influential people, right? So how do we influence ourselves to make the right decisions?
It's a great question.
I just want to say that I think that we have folks like Styles P. Thank you, brother, for all the things that you're doing. We have Curtis Blow, who just came on. We have Dougie, Chuck. We have so many hip-hop icons. And at Hip Hop Public Health, we're working with a lot of these hip-hop icons who are already sowing the seeds for the next 50 years, who are already saying that hip-hop as a genre has the power to start moving towards these health issues. We're having this conversation here. This wouldn't have happened 10 years ago. And so hip-hop is already moving in that direction. And what we're
Part two of the
hoping...
question, what steps can we take right now to remedy the situation?
What steps can hip-hop take or individuals take?
Us as individuals, doctor.
Well, individuals, I think for me, one of the key things that we need to do is we need to try to educate ourselves around these issues from and using reliable sources. I think everything begins with the foundation of education. If you educate an individual, you educate the whole family within that individual. So, but the key is navigating misinformation and disinformation, get the education from the right sources. Hip Hop Public Health, hhph.org. Come to us, we'll educate you.
Each one teach one, old school way.
Facts.
And so we're running out of time. So before we get busy and get lost, I want all of us to just kind of give our final thoughts. on men's health and hip hop, because hip hop is not a young man's disease. Hip hop, it is not a young man's music. It's 65 and under, right? So if we can get our final words about these things that we want people to walk away from as they leave the space.
Well, I'll start. I mean, I think that, first of all, thank you for doing such a great job with your moderating.
Thank you.
And thank you to my panelists. For me, I think that music is an extremely powerful art form. You know, as a neurologist, we know that music has influence over learning. Music has influence over our emotions, our motivation, our retention, right? We learn our ABCs through song. The reality is that music has twice as much real estate in my brain and your brain than language itself. And so I truly believe that hip-hop as a genre, the greatest genre of our time, is beginning to move in the direction of more positive acts and pushing back against, you know, the last 50 years of strife.
I love it. Quickly, everyone.
Not gonna lie, I wish I had more friends like Styles P growing up.
I like that.
And not for nothing, with all the parents out here, tell your children, if you keep drinking the Hawaiian Punch, if you keep drinking the Kool-Aid, you're gonna end up with diabetes, and you have to put insulin shots in your body.
100%.
And then, I know you don't want to be the bearer of bad news when these kids are growing up, but someone got to teach them.
Yeah.
Someone needs to teach them. And like Styles P said, it starts from home.
Thank you.
So what I like to say is think preventively. I'm about preventive maintenance. So I read this Instagram post that said, hey, you pay, for those of you who can't afford health care, I know that not everybody can have health insurance, but those of you who do, you're paying every month, and then you only go to the doctor once a year. That's just basically dumb. Twice a year at least, go to the doctor.
Go to the doctor.
Even though you may have issues, whatever. Secondly, watch sugar. Sugar is the devil. Third, be honest with each other and your friends. If you love them and they're looking whack, tell them they're looking whack. Get your shit together. Stop trying to be politically correct and all that. Oh, my feelings, and I'll help with all of that.
Well, you guys, we are out of time. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get to everybody else, but this was a rich conversation. Don't y'all agree?
Yeah.
We want to thank BRIC for thinking outside of the box to address black men and brown men's health concerns and looking at it through the lens of hip-hop, which is revolutionary. And like the doc said, we have 50 years. What's the next 50 years going to look like? Thank you all for coming out.
Hip-hop. Yeah, hip-hop. Brooklyn.
So everyone, there's going to be a reception outside near the studio.